How do you scale a business? In this video, I'm going to explain a simple idea that allowed me to unlock an 8-figure income through my company. Without this idea, it would not have been possible. Let's get into the video. Realistically, the biggest bottleneck in your business is your energy and time. And it's actually your ability to make your own decisions and to make the right, effective decisions repeatedly. Because your mental capital is the most important asset and currency that you have to grow the business. Because if you're not making great decisions, then you're going to not have great outcomes, okay? And so what's going to happen is if we draw you, as we always do, because all these videos are about you, the world revolves around you, my dear darling. Right, and what's going to happen is, let's say that you exist in a square, right? And this square is basically your business. What's going to happen in your business is small squares are going to crop up, and these squares are scenarios. This is the business, and these are things that happen in the business. And typically we're going to call these problems. Basically what this means is that if you don't solve one of these problems, this square will expand and grow and fill more and more space inside of the business until the business can't really run anymore. Problems in a company are kind of like cancer cells in the human body. If you don't deal with them early on, they will expand and grow and grow and grow until they take up so much space, you have no choice but to allocate all of your thinking capital to them, which means other systems in the business and other projects that you're working on and other things basically grind to a halt because the problem has become so large. The truth is that problems are going to crop up every day. The great news is that if you build a business to a specific point and you want to hold it at that point, let's say you build to $1 million a month and you want to hold it at $1 million a month, there is only so many problems that can crop up. I want to share with you just a real simple idea on how to deal with problems and how to make sure that you don't have this sort of cancer cell growth in your business. And this comes down to the simple idea of using heuristics. Like I said, there's a finite amount of problems that are going to come up in the business, and what that means is that patterns will emerge and problems repeat themselves. Because if you have a series of causes, which is basically your business, like a series of actions or causes, then you're going to have a series of effects, usually within a predictable data set. So what that means is that if I sign 1,000 clients into Easy Grow, a small percentage of them will refund potentially. Right now, funnily enough, our refund rate is like 0.4%, so I don't have to worry too much about that. Let's say I sign 1,000 people into Easy Grow, into our product. There's always one specific problem, for example, email deliverability. So clients will come to us and say, oh my God, I'm not getting any replies, I'm not getting any appointments, what's going on? And then we're like, okay, well, it's probably a deliverability issue, let's address this. And so early on in Imperium's genesis, we found this problem emerged, right, where we'd sign 10 clients and 3 or 4 of them would have a deliverability issue with emails. And what you want to start to learn how to do is recognize these patterns so you can start to build heuristics. A heuristic is basically a if this then that statement, and what that means is that when the problem arises, you already have a prearranged solution for it so that you don't have to think. So let me give you an example in real time of how we've done this and how I solved this email deliverability issue. So inside of the program, this is not a sales pitch, FYI. If you want to buy it, there is a link in the description. I will say no more. If I hop in here and we find, let's go to Loom metrics, for example. Let's say that their Loom view rate is out of KPI. It may be deliverability, it may not be. And what LVR Loom view rate means is that if you send 100 Looms and 10 people view those Looms, you've got an LVR of 10%, which is not high enough to warrant scale through a cold email system. So what I've developed, and I just downloaded this, is something called the Loom Doctor. So this is a heuristic for clients. So we kept having the same issue over and over again, where people would have an LVR that's out of KPI, or a PRR that's out of KPI, which is positive reply rate, or an ABR that's out of KPI, appointment booking rate. And so I basically just built a 6-page document that clients can go to that basically explains every single thing that they need to fix in order to solve the problem. This took me quite a long time to build, maybe a day or two. What it means is I no longer have to expend mental capital on this problem because a client can solve the problem themselves because it's all mapped out. Like if their LVR is out of KPI, they check. I'm like, okay, we'll check the niche. This is the first port of call. If you're sending cold emails, you're not getting replies. Hang on a minute, let's think this through. Does the niche check their emails personally instead of having a gatekeeper screening them? If they have a screener, you need to try another outbound system. Then the first thing to check is deliverability. So we need to do a deliverability test. And that's how we test deliverability. Imagine if every time a client came to me and said, oh, my emails aren't delivering properly. If I had to rethink of how do we test deliverability every time and had to come up with a new test every time, it would be chaos. Now, a lot of the time, what you'll find in your life is that your heuristics will naturally be born, right? They'll come out of nowhere. Let's say, for example, that you have a really annoying family member. You think, there goes Uncle Bob again, like being an asshole. And we all know that when Uncle Bob's an asshole, we all just go for a walk and then let him get on with it. That's a heuristic. The walk is the heuristic. If every time Uncle Bob was an asshole, you had to critically think through a solution to, solve his assholery, it would expend so much mental capital. So you need to get into the habit of doing this for your company, right? So I can give you another example. Let's say that our payment processor got shut down. Now, about a year ago, Stripe decided to wonderfully shut down our payment accounts, and we couldn't process any payments. Now, it later elapsed and transpired by Stripe that it was a mistake. They didn't mean to do it, but we couldn't process for 4 days, right? And so that's a problem that happened once. Now, a problem like that thing expands real quick, because if you can't process payments, that entire business grinds to a halt. And so the Stripe problem, before you know it, that is taking up for the 4 days, all I thought about was Stripe. The bigger the problem, the more brain it consumes, the less you can move elsewhere. And so that thing expanded real fast. So, we dealt with it, and we talked to Stripe, blah, blah, blah. And now I have a series of emails and a series of pre-made decisions on exactly what I need to do if Stripe ever makes that mistake again. Another example, recently we used PayFunnels to process payments, and PayFunnels was down for maintenance for half a day, which meant sales reps couldn't send payment links to get prospects on board. What we did is we sent the sales reps Stripe links, and so now we know that if PayFunnels is down again, then we don't have to think about what to do. We don't have to come up with a decision or come up with some massive thing. We just know we send the Stripe links. And so this might seem like common sense, but if you want to get to 8 figures, $1 million a month, I can't comment beyond $1 million a month, but my understanding of other successful entrepreneurs and people who are way ahead of me is they think in this way, and they have heuristics and they have ideas that they can just deploy. And so look at your life. It's another example is if you're doing cold calls and someone says, send me an email, right? That's a repeated pattern of behavior where someone is like that. That's going to happen quite a lot over and over again. And so when it does, you need to have something ready and be like, oh, I could do that, but who wants to read an email and you can just get it straight from the source. You can come up with any objection. You want to find one that works. And then whenever someone says, I want to have an email, you just give them the exact rebuttal that you know is going to work because you've already tested it, right? So super simple stuff. As I mentioned before, if you do need help getting more clients, you can click the link in the description. I don't care if you click it or not, but either way, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I hope this video serves you well. Have a good day.